Welcome back, focused learners. Today, we're jumping right into an explainer that unpacks a truly fascinating and highly specific ideology surrounding a group known as Life Chanyan. Now, we're looking strictly at a translated text published in September 2025. It's written by a figure named Xu Feng, and it's called Peril in the Mortal World, Why Be Human? And you know, what makes this document so unique is how it starts. It begins with a very real, very grounded grievance about law enforcement, but then it just spirals out into this grand cosmic philosophy about the very nature of human suffering.
Okay, let's dive into this. Look at this dramatic claim right from the author's opening arguments. Right out of the gate, the text drops us smack in the middle of a major conflict. The author is pushing back hard against authorities who have officially branded his group an illegal organization. He's setting the stage here for a super passionate defense of his followers, arguing that the justifications used for the police actions against them were entirely manufactured. He claims none of it was true, creating this immediate, intense sense of injustice.
Section 1. The Raids on Life Shanyuan. Let's look at the actual inciting incidents that prompted the author to write this whole defense in the first place.
According to the text, the group faced this sudden, massive escalation from the authorities. Back in April 2021, the author states that over 1,000 police officers raided 2 of their homes in Guizhou. They detained more than 100 members, and he makes a point to note this included the elderly and even young children. Then the timeline jumps to July 2025, and suddenly we're seeing nationwide arrests of over 80 members. The author's really careful to point out that these were just ordinary, working people, and he stresses that, to this day, literally no official reason has ever been given for those 2025 arrests.
And honestly, what makes this whole crackdown so baffling to the author comes down to the number 20. Life Chanyan has been around for over 20 years. The author points out that absolutely everything they teach, along with their communal second-home lifestyle, has been openly and transparently available online for 2 whole decades. They haven't been hiding in the shadows at all. He describes his followers as simple, honest, law-abiding folks, which makes the sudden cruelty of these raids the central, agonizing mystery he's trying to solve.
Section 2. The Animal Kingdom Metaphor. Let's see how the author scales this up from a legal issue to an entire worldview about how society basically operates.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the author illustrates this stark dichotomy. He views society entirely through the lens of the animal kingdom. On one side, you've got the herbivores. These are his celestials, his followers, described as simple, kind, and law-abiding. On the flip side, you have the carnivores. To him, these are the police and the oppressors. In his worldview, the kinder and more honest you are, the more perilous your life actually becomes, simply because you're painted as prey for the predators.
But you know, the author's despair goes way beyond just the predators. It extends to the rest of the herd. He notes that society has completely ignored 14 years of their suppression. Sure, the media might occasionally report on them, but it doesn't stir any waves. He actually compares ordinary citizens to zebras grazing in a field. Think about it. When one of their companions is hunted down and cries out in agony, the rest just stand afar and watch. Or they just keep grazing, totally indifferent as long as they themselves are safe. And the grim conclusion he reaches? Even if they did care, herbivores cannot fight carnivores. In his eyes, ordinary people are just entirely powerless against the authorities.
Section 3. The Burden of Humanity. This feeling of absolute powerlessness leads the author right to a breaking point, shifting focus to the universally relatable burden of just being human.
He asks a question that really resonates far beyond just his specific group. Look at the beautiful world around us, right? The blue sky, the mountains, the blooming flowers. So why must a human life be constantly entangled with worry, pain, anxiety, and sorrow? It's a really profound philosophical pivot. He's literally asking us to stop and consider our own existence and why, despite all the natural beauty out there, our daily lives can feel so incredibly heavy and difficult.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what the author identifies as the wearying, bitter suffering of merely surviving. He breaks it down into 4 exhausting categories. First up, just basic survival. Securing food, clothing, and housing consumes our best years. Then you have the unavoidable biological realities, birth, aging, illness, and death. Add to that the interpersonal comforts, like the pain of a divorce or dealing with untrustworthy people. And finally, the dark side of human nature itself. Selfishness, greed, jealousy, and ego. He essentially paints a picture of humanity where merely existing is just a massive, painful chore.
Which brings him to this ultimate, sweeping conclusion about the mortal realm. According to the text, the danger of the mortal world isn't just physical, it's spiritual. It's a huge trap. Any misstep in this exhausting, bitter human life doesn't just mean you had a bad day, it means sliding toward hell or falling into animal reincarnation, only to return and repeat the exact same suffering, the same worries, and the same fears all over again.
Section 4. The Celestial Solution. So, if being human is fundamentally this trap of suffering, what on earth is the way out?
Let's move to and see how this builds up an incredible contrast between two vastly different states of being. On one hand, we have living as a human, which, as we've seen, the author firmly establishes as wearying, dangerous, painful, and bitter. But on the other hand, we have his alternative, living as a celestial. This state is described as joyful, free, fulfilling, and completely blissful. It is a total 100% rejection of the traditional human experience in favor of what he sees as an elevated existence.
Now, to prove that this celestial life isn't just some theoretical fantasy, he shares a really specific anecdote about a community called Branch 4 of the Second Home, and the number 70 is key here. He describes a time when more than 70 people, everyone from the elderly to young kids, lived together, sharing just one single kitchen and one table. Even though the daily physical work to build this home was incredibly heavy, the author claims everyone lived in complete freedom and happiness. According to the text, they had theoretically eliminated the interpersonal conflicts and greed that totally poisoned the outside world.
So the crucial point is, how does one actually achieve this? Well, the author provides a very precise 3-step path to break free from the cycle of reincarnation and human suffering. Step 1. Become a Chanyuan celestial. Step 2. Embrace Chanyuan values entirely. And Step 3. Enter the second home to live by this new, elevated way of life. The text is absolute on this point. It emphatically states that apart from this specific process, there is literally no other path to salvation.
We've traced this text from a very specific, real-world grievance about police raids, all the way to a grand theory of human suffering and a radical utopian solution. We've seen how the author views society as an unforgiving animal kingdom and human existence itself as a bitter trap. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. If the mortal world is truly as perilous and exhausting as this text claims, is stepping entirely out of traditional humanity the only real way to find peace? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.